They came onto my ranch with flashing lights, fake badges, and guns drawn, yelling at me to get on the ground like I was some kind of criminal. But they forgot one little detail. I used to be the Attorney General of this state. And in that moment, I knew they had just made the dumbest mistake of their lives. Act 1. The conflict begins. My name's Gregory Miles, but most folks just call me Greg. I'm a retired Attorney General here in Texas, and after 20-plus years of politics, all I wanted was peace. So I bought 40 acres of quiet cows, chickens, big sky sunsets, and my wife Linda. That's it. That's the dream. But peace doesn't last long when you're up against an HOA run by the Queen of Karens herself, Deborah Cartwright. Picture this early 50s platinum blonde, sharp red lipstick marching around like she owns the county. She's the kind of woman who could turn a Sunday barbecue into a courtroom cross-exam, and for some reason she hated me. Now here's the kicker. I don't even live inside their HOA. Not 1 inch of my land belongs to Oak Hollow. But according to Deborah, my barn, my big red barn, ruined the neutral aesthetic of her neighborhood. Can you believe that a barn sitting a mile away somehow violated her vision of suburban paradise? At first it was letters, dozens of them. Then fines, $500 for unregistered fencing, $300 for improper livestock placement. I tossed them into the fireplace. But Deborah wasn't the type to take a hint. One day she showed up at my gate with her clipboard warriors Ken Walters, the spineless vice president, and Sharon Mace, the so-called head of security. They demanded a compliance inspection. I told them flat out, "You're trespassing. Get off my land before I call the sheriff." They didn't like that. After that, I caught Sharon across the road with binoculars scribbling in a little notebook like some dollar store spy. I waved at her and she peeled off in her SUV like she'd just seen a ghost. That's when I knew something bigger was coming. Strange cars started parking by the main road. Tinted windows, engines running. Fake citations showed up from some made-up community enforcement division. And I thought, fine, let's see how far they'll take it. Turns out, a lot farther than I ever imagined. Act 2. Escalation and Turning Point. It was a clear Texas morning. I was feeding the chickens when I heard engines tearing down my private road. A black pickup and 2 old Crown Victorias skidded into my driveway, tires spitting gravel. Guys jumped out dressed like cops, lights flashing on their dashboards, megaphones blasting something about compliance arrest orders. One of them, tall with the crooked badge, barked, "You're under arrest for violating community safety codes and resisting HOA jurisdiction." Now tell me, what the hell does that even mean, HOA jurisdiction? He reached for his cuffs. Another shoved me, trying to put me on the ground. And I just stood there, steady as stone, staring him down. Then I said, calm as ever, "You're breaking at least 7 state and federal laws right now." And I should know. I helped write them. That's when they hesitated. You should have seen the look on their faces, like kids who just realized the substitute teacher was actually the principal. But before they could regroup, boom, an SUV came flying down my driveway. Tires screeched, dust exploded, and out stepped Sheriff Eli Donovan, badge shining, boots heavy on the gravel. He didn't shout. He just said, "Drop the cuffs." You could feel the air shift. Those fake cops froze. Eli snatched the badge off one guy's shirt and held it up. "This isn't even laminated. Where'd you get it?" "A cereal box." Backup rolled in. The men were cuffed and stuffed in cruisers within minutes. And guess who was watching from the road? Deborah Cartwright, sitting in her Lexus with those oversized sunglasses. When our eyes met, she just turned her car around and drove off. But I don't forget. And she made one mistake underestimating me. That afternoon, the investigation began. Turns out the Oak Hollow HOA had used community funds to hire these clowns, rent old police cruisers, even draft fake warrants. Can you imagine paying HOA dues for that nonsense? My lawyer, Sarah Keene Sharp Fearless, read the reports and said, "Greg, this isn't just HOA harassment. This is a criminal conspiracy." And here's where I'll admit something. For one night, I thought about letting it go. Sitting on my porch, staring out at the fields, I wondered if I should just ignore it all. Maybe Deborah would get bored and move on. Maybe peace was worth more than pride. But Linda sat beside me and said, "Greg, if you let them get away with this, they'll do it to someone else." That was it. That was the moment I knew I couldn't back down. Not now, not ever. And just when I thought Deborah had played her last card, she hit me with something worse. Hundreds of flyers scattered across my land, my face printed like a mugshot, the words, "Dangerous criminal, HOA violator, do not approach." They trespassed onto my ranch in the middle of the night, breaking fences just to dump propaganda. This wasn't about compliance anymore. This was personal. And then, twist of all twists, Ken Walters, the HOA vice president, showed up at my door, sweating, stammering, begging. "Greg, I didn't know Deborah was going to go that far. I'll resign. I'll testify. I have emails proof she's been using HOA money for personal stuff." That's when I realized Deborah wasn't just corrupt, she was unraveling. And when people like her start to unravel, they'll do anything to stay in control. Act 3. Climax and Justice. The very next morning, the sound of sirens filled Oak Hollow. Sheriff Eli rolled in with a convoy warrant in hand. Residents poured into the street phones, raised jaws dropped. And right there in front of everyone, deputies dragged Deborah Cartwright out in handcuffs. Her lipstick smeared hair a mess, no sunglasses to hide behind. Just another criminal being shoved into the back of a cruiser. But the fight wasn't over, because Deborah had hired someone far more dangerous, someone from my past, Ronnie Chase, a fixer I'd prosecuted years ago. He was supposed to be locked up for decades. Instead, thanks to a technicality, he was out, and now he was working for Deborah. He wasn't subtle. He left trackers under my truck, spray-painted my barn door with the words, "You won't win, Greg." And worst of all, he left a bomb disguised as a delivery package on my porch. Linda saw it first. "Greg, did you order anything?" My stomach dropped. The bomb squad barely made it in time. The blast tore across the pasture, shaking the ground. That's when I knew this wasn't HOA drama anymore. This was war. 2 days later, the courtroom was packed. Cameras flashing, news vans lined up outside, neighbors whispering. On one side, me and Sarah, cool and steady. On the other, Deborah, pale and twitching, and Ronnie cuffed between federal marshals. Sarah's opening statement cut like a blade. She laid out everything: the fake cops, the phony citations, the defamation flyers, the bomb attempt. She showed video footage, bank transfers, even Ronnie's recorded threats. Witnesses lined up: Ken, Sharon, Sheriff Eli, even Linda. Piece by piece, the story came together. This wasn't about an HOA violation. This was a full-blown conspiracy to intimidate, control, and destroy. When it was my turn on the stand, I looked Deborah straight in the eye. "You tried to scare me into silence. You tried to smear me, control me, even kill me. But what you didn't realize, I don't scare easy, and I don't bow to people who hide behind fake power." The jury didn't take long. Deborah guilty of conspiracy, fraud, defamation. Ronnie federal charges for stalking, attempted bombing, and conspiracy to commit murder. The judge dissolved Oak Hollow HOA on the spot. The gavel came down, and just like that, the reign of the HOA Karen was over. Closing line. The lesson: fake power only works until someone calls it out, then it crumbles like the fraud it is.